Trey Parker and Matt Stone.
At ages 19 and 20, they raised $100,000 to make a movie about a Colorado prospector named Alfred Packer.
Did the film get released?
Mm-hmm.
Basically. I can, buy it on Amazon.com?
Yeah, I bet you can. You might not want to pay more than $1 for it, but you may not like the price.
I want to think about it now. Yeah.
Cannibal the Musical has been released on Blu-ray by two different labels, oddly at the same time in late 2024. Both tout new HD transfers of the cult classic. I'm a longtime superfan of this movie, having discovered South Park when it first aired when I was 13 and diving into Trey Parker's early film catalog shortly after. I loved their live-action early work. Orgasmo is an incredible comedy, and for however much Trey wants to distance himself from basketball, I think his and Matt's influence on it makes it timeless. South Park is one, if not the greatest satire of all time, but I sometimes find it regrettable that they didn't continue acting in and writing and directing live-action movies. But Cannibal is very different for me. This is a movie that found me at the exact right place at the exact right time. I think it's broadly true that the most influential creators and works of art tend to be the ones we can see ourselves in, the ones that are less polished and more accessible. At such a young age in 1999, I hadn't even heard the terms cult classic or B-movie, and if I had heard the term independent film, I don't think I knew what it meant. I had a loose understanding of how films were made. I knew they were expensive and required seasoned experts. I knew that when they were finished, they were shown at thousands of movie theaters and came to VHS 6 months later. I was at a kid's birthday party, and a big group of us was going to stay the night, and his mom took us to the ironically named Hollywood Video to pick out a movie. It was 1999. Everyone had an Oh My God, They Killed Kenny or Respect My Authority t-shirt, and Bigger, Longer, and Uncut had recently come out, so we were sky high on South Park. By this point, I knew Trey and Matt by name from a TV Guide interview, and I had been reading posts on the South Park Scriptorium website and saw something about a Cannibal the Musical. At 13, I really had no appreciation for musicals, and the promotional photos didn't speak to me. Still, it stuck in the back of my mind as a South Park-related thing I'd like to see someday. And as we browsed the Hollywood Video aisles, I saw that tape and somehow convinced the group to rent it. Thank God for that, directed by one of the creators of South Park label. We would watch the movie in a hot attic, on a small, very miscalibrated tube TV with a warped speaker. There were at least 12 of us crammed in that space, and when we popped in Cannibal, we were greeted by the Troma Team Video promo reel. This was an initial clue that I was watching something way off the reservation. The first preview was for Terror Firmer, set to chaotic imagery of violence, vomiting, and Lloyd Kaufman shouting,
Now where are them big-titted women at? Yeah!
We were pretty sure we hadn't accidentally rented a porno, but we weren't completely sure. At the end of that trailer, an amputee shouts, "Don't give up the fight for truly independent cinema!" And we're told that the movie was based on Lloyd Kaufman's book on filmmaking. Next up was the preview for Toxic Avenger 4, which was even more comically grotesque. What the hell are these movies, and are they franchised? Part 4? Then a Romeo and Juliet trailer featuring some kind of penis monster and a woman's pregnant stomach bursting with popcorn? There are few things in life more surreal than a group of unsupervised 13-year-olds nervously cackling at a thing like that. But then the movie started, opening with Alfred Packer, played by Trey Parker, going on a cannibalistic killing spree. We couldn't breathe. We instantly got the joke. It wasn't cartoonish violence. Some parts, like ripping Jason McHugh's face open or eating the larynx out of Ian Harden, was quite gruesome. But it wasn't realistic either. It was all done in voiceover, which was evident by things like yelling, "Zowie! Zowie! Ah! Jeebers!" And amidst the horror, Packer softly beats Dean Bahar with a fake arm that looks like it came from Spencer's Gifts. Trey's grunts and screams rang of South Park and had us in hysterics. The blood looked orange, which really added to the gross but fake nature of it. The movie then smash cuts to a prosecuting attorney trying Alfred Packer, the Colorado cannibal, for his crimes. The audio in that courtroom scene is awful, almost inaudible.
They left me behind. And everybody believes him. They feel sorry for him.
Even to a 13-year-old, it was evident that the extras were family and friends in thrift store costumes, including Randy Parker as the judge. Trey dramatically turns to camera and says,
"But that's not the way it happened."
A la William Shatner.
"But that's not the way it happened."
And we're greeted to a Rodgers and Hammerstein-style overture of The Numbers to Come, timed to color pencil drawings, the final one dissolving back to the movie, but a little misaligned. I could see the cracks in the production, is my point. And it may have been the case that at that age, I had never noticed even one mistake in a movie. Polly Pry, the reporter in the movie played by actress Toddy Walters, interviews Packer in jail, and the movie slows to a crawl.
And then I thought, maybe I should come down here and give you some company. And maybe tell you some secrets. And you can tell me secrets.
You know, we didn't know a lot about filmmaking, and we didn't know that you don't really start a film with a boring conversation.
To recap, we were assaulted by Troma madness for about 7 minutes. The movie opened with vicious yet hilarious violence and cannibalism. And then for several minutes, it became a half-audible, old-timey musical. Half of the attic disengaged, leaving the room or talking amongst themselves, while half of us hung in there, knowing that opening violent sequence was a promise for more weirdness to come. The laugh started back in during the first and most famous song, Shpadoinkle Day, as Trey Parker rides an ambling horse, using a nonsense word to describe his state of mind.
When I say it's a Shpadoinkle day,
describing the fullness of his heart as being like a baked potato.
my heart's as full as a baked potato.
Again, we just sort of got it, where we knew that the creator was being extremely playful, competently singing a very catchy song about nothing, existing somewhere between parody and sincerity. When he meets with the miners, the dialogue remains committed to the mid-century Oklahoma style. Lots of gollies, swells, and I'll says.
Shucks. I'd love to go back to Colorado territory.
Gosh, I wish I had a horse.
Oh, sure.
I'm going to meet a group of them now. Swell.
The humor is often subtle, with Packer being a bit dense and innocent. The miners say that Lucky Larry was hit by lightning, and they carry his charred body across the frame, and Packer says,
Gosh, is he gonna be okay?
delivered with such earnest concern. Trey and Matt were heavily inspired by Monty Python, so this smacks of sketches like Dead Parrot or The Black Knight, but it's Trey's soft follow-up of
What?
that makes it uniquely Cannibal the Musical. What is easily one of my favorite recurring jokes in the movie.
Well, then let's get packing.
What?
I just want to get in there and see what it feels like to, you know.
What?
She ran away.
What?
What?
What? What?
What's with the use of what in this movie?
I know, it is what all the time.
It's always what.
The comedic timing, even for non sequiturs, is almost always precise, and I can often say the same for blocking and shot composition, always filling the background and foreground with information that will enhance a joke or provide character information. This is especially impressive given that the movie was shot by a class of students in 1992, and shooting on 16mm film requires a lot more planning and technical expertise. Cinematographer Robert Muratori, who also plays Frenchie, the main trapper, really did a commendable job with this difficult location shoot and a crew of kids. Throughout this scene, the extras and bit actors were played by their film professors, I later learned, including the late avant-garde film icon Stan Brakhage. At 14 minutes, the main ensemble is formed and sings a reprise of Shpadoinkle Day, followed soon by That's All I'm Asking For, where each states their motivation for seeking the gold in Breckenridge. As Trey points out in the DVD commentary in 2000, the movie actually adheres very well to a traditional narrative and musical structure.
End of Act 1, Leanne runs away. See, I didn't even know structure, and yet I still kind of had it down.
That's weird. It was in ya.
By this time in the film, I was transfixed, and as it would turn out, transformed for life. While most of the addicts slowly lost interest or would bob in and out, I had to sit closer to the TV to soak in the information. Yes, the comedy was working on me. Yes, this Trey Parker guy clearly had a combination of musical, comedic, and acting talent and had managed to invent a style that would define an era of comedy with Team America and Book of Mormon and decades of South Park. But what had hit me, like a murderous cannibal, was the realization that I was watching friends make a movie. More than the characters, more than the story, more than the music, I was not watching Alfred Packer, James Humphrey, or George Noon. I was watching Trey, Matt, and Dean, and all their friends and family gather resources and dedicate their time and comfort to make something special together. This was brand new to me, being able to recognize the filmmaking as a part of the experience of watching the film, and for that reason alone, I could suddenly see myself, and maybe a few of these guys in the attic, scrounge up a camera and microphone and try it ourselves. This was pre-YouTube. Filmmaking wasn't something that ordinary people did. You didn't watch Ghostbusters and enjoy a scene with bad audio, or watch Indiana Jones and laugh at how wrong the colors looked. 2 other friends made it to the end of the movie with me, while the others passed out. We would obnoxiously sing Shpadoinkle Day throughout the halls of our middle school. We downloaded the MP3s from cannibalthemusical.net, which I'm shocked to find still exists in its original form at the time of this video. My mom, by some miracle, let me order the VHS online, and I distinctly remember watching it 7 times in a row when it first came in. I would just watch it from beginning to end, rewind, and go again. I'd learned later that Trey initially went to Berklee College of Music, thinking he might be a film composer, but transferred into the film production program at the University of Colorado in Boulder, where he met Matt Stone, Jason McHugh, Diem Bahar, and others. Alfred Packer was a well-known Colorado figure, somewhat tongue-in-cheek, on campus with their student dining facility named the Alfred Packer Grill. Trey experienced a horrible breakup with his fiancée Leanne, who was discovered to be cheating, and after coming out of a deep depression, decided to make a fake trailer for Alfred Packer the Musical with a jab at Leanne by giving the horse her name.
I'm Alfred Packer. This is my horse, Leanne.
When it was well received, he became deeply invested in adapting it into a real film, and he and his team read up on Robert Rodriguez and other low-budget film icons of the moment, and they ultimately raised $125,000 by finding a wide variety of investors. The film became a project for the entire film department, in effect, many of whom received internship credit. And yet Trey, the man of the hour, was expelled due to failing grades and non-attendance as a result of focusing on the movie. One of the main narrative thrusts of the film is that Packer loses his horse, but it turns out she was stolen by the trappers, and she doesn't want to come back to Packer, a depressing tribute to Trey's real-life breakup. In the movie, Packer doesn't really know the way to Breckenridge, a situation that becomes worse because he's more focused on finding Leanne than the gold. While he always wanted to name the horse Leanne, it was producer and star Ian Harden who suggested that they put the loss of Leanne as the main element motivating Packer. It's hard for me to imagine that absent from the movie. Like, would they all get lost just because he's dumb? There are lots of comedic highlights throughout, but any fan would quickly know, you're doomed. You're all doomed.
Thank you.
Cartman singing outside the general store.
Howdy.
Being sent to timeout.
If you can't get along with the others, I'm gonna have to put you in timeout.
You're gonna have to find a more constructive way to express your anger.
Well, fuck you. How's that for constructive?
That's great. Now go to timeout, mister.
Humphrey's cooking.
You son of a bitch, Humphrey.
Oh, come on. You haven't even tried it yet.
You son of a bitch, Humphrey.
And side note, anytime I would show the movie to someone who didn't get it, they always at least laughed at the Matt Stone parts.
This is gonna suck.
Okay.
Okay, you guys, follow me. I think I see a way out. Are there any more big rivers between here and Breckenridge?
Oh no, just the Colorado.
The biggest fucking river I've seen in my entire life. Thank you very much. He said, drink the water. Nice hat. Ew. Look away. Look away. Look away. You stupid Yank. Just kind of look at our situation here, and I've come to the conclusion that we're completely fucked. Has anybody else made this discovery? Wait, you're cutting into his butt. Well, what kind of piece do you want? Well, not butt. Whoa, Packer! Nice hat. I just thought of something, too. Now, remember when Swan was building that snowman? How the hell did he make that tapping sound with his feet?
Wait a minute, Humphrey, you wouldn't even eat your shoes.
Well, yeah, but you put your feet in shoes.
Second side note, if you take Matt Stone's voice in the movie and speed it up, you kind of get Kyle Broflovsky.
Just kind of look at our situation here, and I've come to the conclusion that we're completely Has anybody else made this discovery?
Matt doing Kyle's voice before Kyle was invented.
Is Kyle.
Calling cut.
Now, at the end of this shot, you can see Trey yell cut.
Yeah,
Ready?
watch.
Ready?
I say cut. Watch.
Cut.
I can't feel my balls.
You guys, I can't feel my balls.
Carrots and peas.
I think we should all take a minute and thank the Lord for getting us across that river.
Carrots and peas and carrots and peas and white chestnuts.
Amen.
Fudge Packer.
Fudge Packer.
Leanne pooping on Packer during When I Was on Top of You, saying it can't be that big at the actual Grand Canyon.
Come on, we can just walk around it. Can't be that big.
The natives who were actually Japanese.
This is the weirdest Indian tribe I've ever seen.
I remember when I was in high school, I became friends with an exchange student from Okinawa, and he translated what each of the Japanese characters said. Lines included, "Keep it up and you'll be sleeping with the fishes, see?"
You mean she'll be sleeping with the fishes, see?
And "Hi, hi, hi, welcome. I guess you are the hero of this movie?" Trey voiced some of this in Japanese as well, which my friend wasn't able to translate. But Trey said on the commentary that they were saying things like, "This is a really stupid movie."
Actually, no, I ADR'd this too. This is a really stupid movie. That's what he just said there.
The chief referring to them as assholes as a generic term, like outsider, always cracked me up.
Who are you, assholes?
Especially when he says, "A group of assholes like yourselves."
10 days ago, the group of assholes like yourselves.
25 years later, the cadence still catches me off guard and makes me laugh. Dean jingling his car keys, which he thinks was reasonable according to a new interview.
Apparently you can hear the car keys jiggling in my pocket. But I have to say, that's not that weird. Because they did have keys back in the 1800s. You know, I mean, it could have been coins, sure. It could have been bullets, whatever, sure.
See, you shook him right there. Why does he have car keys? He's lost in the mountains.
The Trapper song voiced over entirely by Trey.
I'm better than the baddest sailor. I make love to women 10 feet tall.
I almost did this song in a talent show for 8th grade while a friend was going to do the Lumberjack song from Monty Python, but they canceled the show due to low participation. The argument about which key to sing in was one of the broader jokes in the movie and very memorable.
None of us singing in the wrong key.
No, I wasn't. It was Lautzenheiser. I was singing an E-flat minor.
The song's an F-sharp major.
That may have been the first thing from the movie I ever heard. There was an MP3 of it going around during that time.
Wait, are you singing Mixolydian scales or something?
A sharp is tonic to C major.
That's very interesting.
That's very interesting.
And I sculpt with my hands.
That's very interesting, too.
You have no idea what I'm saying, do you?
That's very interesting.
And, okay.
If you quit acting like a sex-starved little Mr. Pervert, we'd be able to get out of here.
Okay.
Really, just any time Shpadoinkle is used, especially in a dramatic context.
Well, she certainly is a Shpadoinkle horse.
Shpadoinkle! Shpadoinkle! You guys, Shpadoinkle!
Bell's infected leg had finally gotten so bad that he was losing his Shpadoinkle.
Shpadoinkle.
The sheep shouting with the miners.
Are you looking at my eye?
Let's Build a Snowman, including the hidden alien snowman, which was a South Park staple at the time.
Swan, shut the fuck up! Or we can make him not so tall.
They also really were a film crew out in the cold snow, with those uncomfortable crepe hair beards, so at times the miners' discomfort is pretty real. Ike! Abe Lincoln.
You guys, look. Abe Lincoln.
Abe Lincoln!
The depressing version of That's All We're Asking For.
We just don't wanna die.
The funniest joke in the movie, Nobody Eat Anybody.
You guys just watch the fire. Nobody eat anybody.
The Priest Who Won't Die, speaking of the Black Knight. And the song that Packer keeps almost singing, but we never get to hear. Children.
This is what he says. Listen, children.
Watch the children.
That's what he said. For some reason, we all always said, watch the children, which became Chef saying it.
You know what they say about sunrise.
You know what they say about sunrise.
I also love the rattlesnakes in this dude's stomach.
Back to Utah!
You know what? This guy might be the funniest character in the movie. Drinky Poo.
Now you're just kind of hanging back, having a little drinky poo, huh?
Drinky poo.
We shot a scene,
Dude,
we
shot
lost
for
the
like
sound,
24 hours
and we
in
couldn't
right here.
remember what people said.
Drinky poo.
But see, that's not what I really said. We could never figure out what I really said, so we just said drinky poo.
The alien visitor in the shadow. I'll eat this guy right in front of you.
Nobody move, else I'll eat this guy right in front of you.
This scene also had a hip-hop song that was cut from the movie called Shatterproof.
I'm shatterproof. There ain't nothing you can show me. I'm still standing tall, so you all can't blow me. Know what I'm saying is true. After what I've been through, I'm shatterproof.
Admittedly, it doesn't fit here in the movie, but it is kind of great.
Know what I'm saying is true. After what I've been through, woo! I'm shatterproof.
You ever been to Wyoming?
You ever been to Wyoming?
Hello?
Oh, God, it sounds horrible.
All of Hang the Bastard is wonderful. It's really a strong song and a great third act number, including the cowbell solo.
Cowbell solo.
The two ADRs of Polly Pry saying, asshole.
Asshole. You knew about this the entire trial?
And of course, Shannon Wilson Bell showing up one last time. clocking in at a breezy 95 minutes, with the final warning well after the credits that, due to the graphic nature of this film, it should not have been watched by young children. A similar joke to South Park's typical advisory. At the end of the Troma VHS, an ad for Lloyd's book hit again, and it was only through Cannibal that I learned about Troma and some of where my filmmaking adventures would take me. Jason McHugh, as a producer, has really become the keeper of Cannibal the Musical over the decades, overseeing the legacy website, physical releases, putting out the book Shpadoinkle, The Making of Cannibal the Musical, and partnering with Concord Theatricals to allow for stage adaptations. Another shout out to CannibalTheMusical.net. This really was a suitable alternative to a DVD, at one point containing a link to the whole movie for free on Troma's YouTube channel, and an upload of the deleted Shatterproof scene. It showed all of the alien Easter eggs and other trivia, like what Matt Stone was signing.
Now right there, I'm signing Jesus Christ is dead.
Reviews, fan contests, and before his book, Jason wrote an extensive making of and published it for free right here on the site. According to his book and other interviews, the movie very nearly starred Moira Kelly as Polly Pry, in hopes that would attract more investors and better prospects. Jason also detailed that the team set up ad hoc screenings in and around festivals in Hollywood to attract attention, cold calling journalists and reviewers and other guerrilla tactics. When it all fell flat, they made an unfavorable agreement with Troma, who wanted it long-term with no upfront payment and a small back-end percentage.
Hey, there's Troma. We were all excited to do a distribution deal with them, but then Kevin Morris, our new lawyer, he said, I would rather poke needles in my eyes than accept their distribution deal because it is so bad and exploitive and all these things.
Trey actually wrote the foreword to Lloyd's book, Make Your Own Damn Movie, detailing that their meeting with Lloyd was at a Del Taco and Lloyd didn't pick up the tab. Almost identically to how I felt when watching Cannibal for the first time, Trey details how the Toxic Avenger made him realize that if they can do it, he can do it.
I think everyone's seen Toxic Avenger. You know, we've definitely seen that and had little Toxic Avenger parties. And then Lloyd came along and said, this movie is good, and decided to put it out.
It was Troma that insisted the movie be renamed from Alfred Packer the Musical to Cannibal the Musical to be more marketable.
Troma has actually sent us checks for Cannibal. It's not a lot yet, but it's in the positive. It's pretty fucking impressive, I have to say.
That was the smartest deal to take because, look, we're here now, like, still talking about this movie. Troma's still alive. They've actually, like, been a much more honest distributor than any of the Hollywood distributors that we've dealt with.
A year or so after getting the tape, I bought the 2000 edition of the DVD. This is a pretty fucking Shpadoinkle version of Cannibal, put out by Troma. It contains these memorable animated menus, an intro from Lloyd that explains why the movie got renamed, where he thanks them for putting him in Orgasmo and participating in Terror Firmer.
Alfred Packer is a Colorado legend, but if you're not in Colorado, I don't think anybody knows who he is. I still think that Fudge Packer, the musical, would have been the proper title.
It talks about how Trey and Matt's Sundance rejection helped inspire grassroots festivals in Park City, like Troma Dance. One annoying thing is that the main course button, which you would expect would bring you straight to the movie, starts at Lloyd's intro, but it's skippable.
Thank you, Lloyd Kaufman, and now stay tuned for Cannibal the Musical.
It's got raw footage of the making of the movie. I live for this stuff, just fly-on-the-wall footage. The original Alfred Packer trailer, where it all started. It's kind of awesome to see how much of the content from that ended up in the final movie.
I'm Alfred Packer. This is my horse, Leanne.
Tell me something, Frenchie. How does it feel to be riding my horse?
Come off it, Packer. We're winning this town is with your horse.
Shut the fuck up! We can make it not so tall.
Golly, never thought I'd be an extra naked man on this trip.
How big are mountain sheep?
Leanne!
Packer's horse left.
I don't know where she could have gone.
Our food was on that horse.
Gross, Packer! What the hell kind of language is that?
I don't know, just keep laughing.
There's also a Troma trailer for Cannibal, which actually uses a lot of the original, oddly, even though they had a whole real movie to choose from. Also, that drunk sheriff who I said I love. I think he was originally supposed to be Swan.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm having a great time.
There's also a strange song that's not in the final film called Don't Eat Me. I wish we could hear it.
It was a great little piece, and I can't remember the whole thing, but I remember I was singing one line and he was singing another line.
All the guys I just got to know.
All the guys I just got to know. I think the premise of the song was that Packer and Bell were making a promise that they wouldn't eat each other.
There's a cool 1998 interview with Matt, Trey, Jason, and Dean when they all lived on the beach at Playa del Rey.
Why did we give this movie to Troma?
There are a number of film songs from stage adaptations of Cannibal, which is really interesting to see, and we'll talk more about stage adaptations of Cannibal in a bit. Trey and Matt cameoed in Terra Firma as a pair of hermaphrodites in a PSA narrated by Lemmy from Motorhead, so that's clipped out here too. There's a lot of other Troma commercials and nonsense, but I do still really need to emphasize how nice the menus are, even for this throwaway content. This was back when people loved producing DVDs. Now, I never knew until I had something to compare it to, but the film itself does not look its best. The movie, in any release, has parts with highly saturated color, which we'll learn was done by the editors when having a little too much fun with an early Avid system. But for some reason, this DVD version is way crazier with the color saturation than any other release.
That color correction.
We were like, we can color correct. Let's get really green. I didn't understand the purple leaves. That really bothered me the first time I saw it.
There's one wide of Packer on the horse before Shpadoinkle Day where it's just insane. That said, remember when I mentioned how orange the blood was in the opening scene? It turns out that original VHS release was also color corrected in such a way that washed out the image some and lightened all the colors, making the red blood distinctly orange. All other releases, even this oversaturated DVD, have distinctly red blood. I originally thought maybe this was just the natural effect of VHS, but you can see the color is treated different from the initial DVD release. So we have two versions of the movie so far that definitely don't look right. But of course, the main event here is the drunken commentary track with Trey, Matt, and some of the cast and crew. Moment to moment, it's an essential companion to the real movie, complete with its own through lines and recurring jokes, like Trey exclaiming, "I fucked up," every time he remembers the time he dated Toddy Walters.
Here's Toddy and I arguing, which happened quite a lot more in the past in the next 8 years. And as of about 3 months ago, we're not dating anymore because I fucked up. I fucked up. Yeah, but now she doesn't care. Now she fucking dumped me.
Come on, bro. You can make another movie.
Fucked up. And this was the first time we ever kissed, and then of course we kissed for 8 years after that until I fucked up. I fucked it up, man. I fucked it up.
Or when he mocks the insurance salesman the real Leanne left him for.
And now she's with the manager of Foley's.
This is pretty sweet when we come in.
Hi, I'm worth $7 million, and she's with the manager of Foley's. Whoops. You know what he does now? Guess what he does now? He sells insurance. Hello! He sells insurance in Denver.
All right.
Whoops.
What kind of insurance does he sell? I could use a new...
Leanne was actually a dance choreographer, and I had Leanne come and choreograph this scene. And I don't know why I did that, except that I wanted her to see that I was making a movie about her, that she had made the wrong choice between me and the insurance salesman.
They play a haphazard drinking game as the movie goes on, and by the end, they're a mess.
God, I'm so fucked up, you guys.
This was...
See, here's the reprise of that I'm asking for. Wait, what? Oh, Andy just farted on Dean. No! All right, titty bar.
Titty bar.
Titty bar.
Cannibal fans, South Park fans, comedy fans, this is a commentary you can't miss. Like a film commentary Hall of Famer here.
Dude, this film rules.
Hey, Blake, I love this movie.
I forgot how sweet this movie was.
There's a similar one on the Orgasmo DVD, and it's great, but this is much funnier.
And we just really freeformed this. We didn't choreograph it. I said, let's just roll cameras. You guys try to take me down, and let's see what happens. It goes down like a bitch. And then I clothesline these two bitches.
Interestingly, the VHS has very small bits of content that future releases would not have. For instance...
Now how could you possibly want to spend your afternoon with a beast like that when you could spend it with a gentleman like myself, huh?
This is the kind of story that could make my career. Believe me, I don't relish the thought of...
Or how other shots just linger a bit longer in the VHS.
You son of a bitch, Humphrey.
And most notably, a full-blown deleted scene is on the tape. After the miners form up and set off on their quests, a choir of extras sings,
Don't be stupid, wait until spring. The mountains in the winter are treacherous things. Just look at these fools, they think they can make it. It'll be 20 below and they say they can take it. What a bunch of stupid mother.
I was in a stage production of Cannibal in college. I played Jason McHugh's role of Frank Miller, no relation to the comic book artist, and I remember we had to sing Don't Be Stupid, but rather than self-censoring at the end, we harmonized on fuckers.
Don't be stupid, wait until spring. The mountains in the winter are a treacherous thing. Just look at these fools, they think they can make it. It'll be 20 below and they say they can take it. What a bunch of stupid mothers.
later learned that they had sold Cannibal, when it was still Alfred Packer the Musical, to a company called Screen Edge in the UK before Troma picked it up. I certainly don't have that version, but that Troma VHS was the UK cut, except for the retitling. The next time Cannibal would be released, believe it or not, was on UMD for the PlayStation Portable in 2006. This novel little format has a DVD-esque presentation of the movie, with cute little menus with the drunken commentary and the beach interview. The blood is red, but the picture is generally washed out, as was normal for the PSP. It appears to have been taken from the 2000 DVD, complete with oversaturated greens and pinks. As far as pre-streaming portable ways to watch your favorite movie, this ain't that bad, really. Troma always tries to adopt media formats early, since home video is such a major part of their business model. So they put out Toxic Avenger and Cannibal, probably just to have a presence on that format. I'm also noticing how the marketing started to morph a little bit. The VHS touted, directed by the creators of South Park and Orgasmo, as though they're equally notable. And in just as large lettering, written and directed by Trey Parker. But then, as if to mean something, starring Juan Schwartz and Matt Stone. Juan Schwartz was a pseudonym Trey wanted to use because he didn't like seeing the same name over and over in the credits. It was based on the pseudonym Alfred Packer used after he escaped from prison in 1874, John Swartz. The DVD and UMD have the same Trey Parker and Juan Schwartz plus Matt Stone credits, but this time it cuts the bullshit and says, from the creators of South Park. None of this directed by one of the co-creators stuff. Matt was an executive producer and star of the movie. There's no reason not to just say it was made by the creators of South Park.
We could both be good, like the South Park guys. Except Trey does everything. Trey does everything!
Another tangent on the topic of Juan Schwartz. Apart from a cameo in Troma's 2004 Tales from the Crapper, the only other time Trey was credited as Juan Schwartz was in their unaired television series Time Warped, a show intended for Fox Kids directly in the style of Cannibal. The Cannibal cast would be an ensemble of players, portraying different historical figures week to week. The pilot was about Aaron and Moses freeing the Hebrews, and the second was called Rom and Jewel, a retelling of Romeo and Juliet with Matt Stone playing an Australopithecus who falls in love with a Homo erectus.
Hey! A pig! Oink oink pig! Oink oink you stupid pig!
No surprise, the songs are all bangers.
Yepper, through the desert land I roam, looking for salvation, trying to get me some. Why him? He's an exasperating dolt. I don't believe you'd pick someone as slow and low and dumb as him, so why him? He's an irritating klutz. I think you're nuts to choose someone as tense and dense and gone as him.
Evolution, evolution, ever wondered how we all came to be? I have found out that solution, what turns a monkey into a human?
Evolution!
And the Manic Time Warp theme song never fails to make me laugh.
Time Warped is your favorite show. It goes back in time, and you learn a lot of history, and it sort of blows your mind. Folks who are on Time Warped are your favorite in the world. They're your favorite people. You like them more than your grandparents.
I'm sure it's a rights thing, but despite all these Cannibal releases, Time Warped has never had an official release. But it is on Jason McHugh's official YouTube channel. I'd love to see these in full quality someday.
Hey, duck, quack, quack!
Not duck, Rom. Monkey. Monkey.
Oh, duck.
In 2008, under a Troma Masterpiece label, Troma put out the 13th anniversary Shpadoinkle 2-disc DVD. The presentation is a bit weird. The graphic design feels a lot more amateurish than the first DVD. Clashing browns, overuse of that Pioneer font. Look at that inside sleeve. It's got the graphical sensibilities of a chain email from the early 2000s. This uncanny valley stretched drawing of Trey on the disc. This severed hand that doesn't really go with the aesthetic of the movie. And this cover art. I just think it's vastly inferior to the past releases, like that cool painting of the snowman and miners and trappers and, whoa, visitors.
Dude, visitor, totally.
This was apparently done by Randy Pajone, who also did the credits illustrations. This 2008 DVD one, done by a guy named Michael Goffin, I think they were probably going for a Norman Rockwell-style classy painting, the kind you might see on a special edition of Oklahoma or The Sound of Music. But for one thing, the dimensions on it look stretched. The first DVD had a lot of food puns too, but this one is almost incoherent. Who would assume that dissected innards would be the chapter selection? Lloyd has a very Lloyd-esque introduction to the DVD.
Why, look, here's Matt Stone. Hey, Matt, come on over. How do you feel today on this amazing anniversary day? I feel great.
Another minor authoring complaint. Lloyd's intro is actually part of the movie on this DVD. On the past DVD, it was its own video, and when it ended, the movie then played, which was authored on its own timeline. On this DVD, if you were to rip the movie, you'd then have to cut out the Lloyd intro. It's just kind of stupid. The new special features are definitely cool. We now have a 2006 interview with Trey, where Lloyd Kaufman visits his house while Trey is hungover.
You're looking great, by the way.
And I'm super hungover, actually.
Making up for the Del Taco incident, Lloyd brought Trey a taco, which seemed to hit the spot for his hangover.
You mentioned that I had made you meet for the first time, that we met at Del Taco.
Yeah, I remember the exact Del Taco, actually.
And about a year ago, I went there and it's the Culver City, and I got you the,
Oh, nice.
I got you the taco. I haven't.
Oh, you know what? That actually sounds really good.
Of note in this interview, Trey talks about his distaste for Family Guy.
There's plenty of room for more shows, and we're all about it. It just bothers me when people are like, you guys and Family Guy. It's South Park and Family Guy. Basically, when we get compared to Family Guy, that's when I get bummed out.
Which was soon followed by their famous Cartoon Wars two-parter.
I am nothing like Family Guy.
Family Guy has survived 19 cancellations, 2 assassination attempts, and a pretty good ribbon by those South Park guys.
He also talks about how he sometimes regrets starring in Basketball because it's perceived as part of his filmography, when he firmly rejects it as a Trey Parker film, since he merely starred in it.
Sometimes I'll go to video stores and it'll be like the Trey Parker films, and it'll have Basketball there. And I'm just like, no, that's not my film. That's a Zucker Brothers film, you know.
This is just like when we got our money back for Basketball.
But he values his experience learning how to work with a studio by observing David Zucker.
He really let us in on everything, and we were learning stuff, watching him deal with the studio. David taught us from the beginning how to fight the studio and say, no, we're not doing that. We're doing this what we want to do.
They also chat about how Lloyd wanted the South Park Spirit of Christmas short on the original Cannibal DVD. But because that cartoon wasn't made for commercial purposes initially, it was covered in Mel Torme music.
Here we are, Jesus.
Did someone say my name? This is the one time a year in which we all try to get along, no matter what we believe in.
Presents. Don't you see, Kyle? Yeah, presents.
But Trey says that 3 days before the time of that interview, Mel Torme's estate cleared the music for future DVD releases.
3 days ago, Torme's estate approved all the music on Spirit of Christmas.
One of his last comments was that, after his horrible breakup with Leanne, he thought Cannibal would be his big final creative project, and he's applied that "this is my final swan song" sensibility to every project since.
I really thought, well, there's the love of my life, and now and I'm old and past my time. Now I'm 21, what else am I gonna do? So I thought, Cannibal would be my big final swan song, which I've sort of thought every movie since then. Thought this will be the last thing I ever do.
I remember they said something similar on the South Park movie Blu-ray commentary.
There was a real swan song feeling to the whole thing.
But that's why we had in our heads of like, all right, well, no one's going to really see this. It's going to be the end of South Park. So let's just totally do it the way we want to do, and we'll leave this town with our heads held high.
And back when Lloyd interviewed them during the production of Team America.
I don't think we're doing anything after this. Yeah. We're doing this movie. That's it.
This and more. A couple. We got to take 2 more runs of South Park, and then we're getting the fuck out of here.
There's a new interview with Matt Stone as well. Lloyd asks him what it's like to be second fiddle to Trey, and he says he's just glad to be along for the ride.
Do you get pissed off when why isn't it Matt Stone and Trey Parker?
Well, sometimes it's Matt Stone and Trey Parker, but sometimes Trey Parker and Matt Stone. I don't care. Trey's the director. He's a much better actor. He's much more talented, actually, in a lot of ways. So it's like, I don't really care. I'm just glad to be a part of the ride.
And he and Trey have no contracts between them. They just enjoy working together.
It's working out, so I think we'll probably stay together. I mean, we don't have anything in writing or anything, it always seems to work out that way, and it's been a good partnership, so kind of why break it up the band?
Lloyd remembers Matt seeming like the hostile one of the two when they first met.
I had the sense that Trey kind of liked me, but I felt that you were kind of hostile.
Really?
Yes.
He talks about how Cannibal has seen more back-end returns than studio movies like Team America and South Park, which are kept in perpetual debt by Hollywood accounting.
We made more money off of Cannibal than we have off the back end of Orgasmo, South Park movie, or Team America. Literally none of our movies are in profit.
There's a fun new commentary labeled the Colorado Commentary, with Ian Harden, who produced and played Shannon Wilson Bell, his wife Alexandra Kelly, who was also a producer, John Hagel, who played Swan, Robert Muratori, who was the cinematographer and played Frenchie, and Toddy Walters, who played Polly Pry. Robert has to duck out 15 minutes in, and the mics don't seem well positioned, and the sound of the movie competes with their voices.
Okay, Robert's leaving. Bye, Robert.
Bye, Robert. Bye, Robert.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks for coming. Oh, who was that right behind?
Trey Parker.
The group mostly talks about how hard the weather and mountain conditions were, especially wearing wet clothes and wearing those uncomfortable fake beards. There's a fair amount of discussion about continuity issues, like background props and actors jumping around from shot to shot.
See, there's a continuity problem here. There's a person frozen in the background, and then when you see Dean's close-up, there's an empty shirt.
There's a brief mention that Jason's shirt in the opening was color-corrected, and Hagel asks why the color is so funky here, but no further insight is provided.
There's Jason in his color-corrected shirt.
Now, why does the color look so funky here?
I don't remember how that happened.
Alex mentions she can talk about all the people Trey slept with.
There's Damla. Trey slept with Damla on his left right there. I can tell you who Trey slept with.
In Jason's making of write-up on the website, he mentions that Ian and Alex were very politically correct vegetarians who often clashed with the more irreverent Trey and Matt. And in one of their fights, Alex shouted, "Get out of my personal space," which Trey put in the movie.
Get out of my personal space!
That's a long story. I don't think we should even get into that one. Why he says personal.
You can read the book.
It's an oversimplified take, I think.
I don't remember anything political. I don't even remember if I was a vegetarian at the time. But I think there was just so much bad blood at the end. There was a lot of animosity and a lot of insecurity, a lot of I think blame and shame. And I remember Trey said, you guys can come out to California with us and ride my coattails. And I was like, no, thank you. I don't want to ride your coattails.
Disc 2 has the first release of deleted and extended scenes. Some of these were available online in very low quality, so this was really great to have. Of note, the Japanese chief does a joke that would later be on South Park.
You come back now. Here?
Y'all coming back now. Here?
There are more jokes about how the natives are really Japanese.
Where do you come from? Ohio. Ohio?
I would have liked to see this last pickle joke stay in the movie. That would have played really well for me when I was 13.
Those trappers know something. And I'll bet my last pickle they know where Leanne is.
You have pickles?
There's a reprise of When I Was on Top of You.
When I was on top of you.
Hey. Very nice.
There's some skiing where you can hear Trey behind the camera.
Now look at me.
And Chief invents the idea of skiing and charging for it.
We start charge money to go down the hill.
Who's going to want to pay money to go down a hill?
Maybe we charge money to get up the hill. You pay us to get you there. How's that?
Here's a really weird thing. In the deleted scene, when Trey asks him if he's kidding, you can hear Chief say no, but in the final film, you can't.
You're kidding.
No.
You're not kidding.
You're kidding.
You're not kidding.
There's a reel of artwork and photos. There's way more footage of Cannibal stage productions from around the world, including one with an excessively ad-libby Lloyd Kaufman as the judge.
All right, I'll order myself. The lady in the back there is going to get a porcupine burger with cheese. She'll have a reindeer shit with snow. And bring her some snow omelet, whites of snow omelet.
Where he shows his ass for some reason.
Soon you will be dead.
There's a bunch of miscellaneous Troma crap, including a promotion for Poultrygeist, which was the big Troma release at the time.
Can you guys give me money for Poultrygeist?
You're doing Poultrygeist?
Yeah, I'm doing it, finally.
We'll give you 50% of what we made on Cannibal.
I need an investor in Poultrygeist, seriously. I'm putting up half of it.
You know what?
My own money, so
I'll try to find you one.
Finally, there's a very strange Easter egg if you highlight the knife. A YouTube poop-style animation with cut-up audio clips of Lloyd and Matt Stone.
Fuck!
If Lloyd Kaufman, was farted on, would that have been kind of like a benediction, or?
That was I've farted on some of my best friends.
I don't get it. But here's the important part. Before the 2024 Blu-ray releases, this DVD absolutely had the best presentation of the movie. The reds are actually red, and the saturation and contrast aren't excessive like the 2001 DVD, but it still has a nice warmth to it. Skin tones look right, and things are visible during night scenes. So, for 16 years, that was Cannibal. But in 2024, Refuse Films, a UK label that specializes in Blu-ray remasters of underground films, followed soon by Vinegar Syndrome under their Degausser video label, both announced Blu-rays of Cannibal. Vinegar Syndrome even announced an extremely limited run VHS release of the movie. I didn't know what the differences were, so I got them all, and I'm here to break it down in detail. The two Blu-ray releases are very different. Cannibal was shot on 16mm film in 4x3, but that original negative was not preserved, which is ironic based on what the opening slate says. In the early days of filmmaking, editors would cut on a flatbed, physically cutting and splicing their negative film strips. By the late 80s, when the film was developed, the developers would use a telecine machine to transfer all the film to a Betacam SP analog tape, one of the higher quality tape formats of the time. Editors could then use an Avid system to make all of their editing decisions, then commit those decisions with tape decks, and finalize a Betacam SP master for broadcast on TV or for home video. Cannibal actually edited digitally with Avid Media Composer using 1 gig hard drives.
We bought a bank of hard drives that went from the floor to the ceiling because it couldn't hold much and it was all pixelated and horrible, but we thought it was super cool.
Most movies that anticipated a theatrical release would have paid to have an original negative cutter go back to the film negative and cut it in exact accordance with the decisions made on tape. Had they done this, we would have a beautiful archive-quality Blu-ray of Cannibal. Instead, all we really have is a master tape archived by Troma.
This negative could exist somewhere, and we've been trying to locate it, but it's very odd. No one seems to know where it could be.
Refuse Films upscaled the tape to 1080p without using any AI tools like smoothing or anti-aliasing. Since the source was tape, it was originally interlaced, so they were able to make it progressive scan, bringing it a bit closer to film in that sense. That upscaling causes dotty colors and all kinds of problems, but they took the time to rotoscope and repair everything by hand. The color correction looks very close to the 2008 DVD release, and perhaps a few % better. The transfer was approved by Robert Muratori, and I'm here to say, it's the best version of the movie that exists. Meanwhile, the Vinegar Syndrome 2-disc release has 2 options. The first is also an upscale of the tape master. Aside from de-interlacing the file and removing video hits, minimal digital manipulation was performed on the master, and no AI or similarly distorting software was used during the restoration process. This presentation reflects how the Video Master first looked when it was created 30 years ago. So that's kind of cool. This probably looks about as authentic to the way the movie was shot as possible. But as a result, it looks cold, underexposed, and drab. The color profile, even though it might be authentic to the film, just contradicts every release of the movie. It just doesn't feel right. That said, you can tell, especially in daylight scenes, that it's a bit more evenly lit and more properly white balanced. I think this is definitely an acceptable way to watch the film, even if just academically. Vinegar Syndrome's Disc 2, however, looks like shit. So remember what I said about cutting the film to the editing decision list and how that wasn't done for Cannibal? Well, by the time it was acquired by Troma, they wanted a 35mm print for theatrical exhibition. Why film? Why 35mm and not 16mm like it was shot? Because movie theater projectors were 35mm.
We shot in 16, actually. We couldn't really afford 35. And it looks all the same once it's on video, so who the hell cares?
Except it's going to be in the theaters.
Oh, then we should have shot in 35. We really made a mistake.
If you wanted to show in a theater back then, your movie, even if it was shot on tape or digital, needed to be transferred to film. This would have cost at least $10,000, which is far cheaper than recutting the movie onto its original film, which may have been closer to $40,000. The movie's budget was $125K, and the limited theatrical exposure probably just couldn't justify that cost.
What it all comes down to is budget. Budget.
So this means that a 35mm transfer of the tape master existed. So just to be perfectly clear, this means the movie was shot on 16mm film, all footage was transferred to analog videotape, the movie was edited and finalized on that same tape format, and then that tape master got transferred to 35mm film. This would have been that same cold tone, underexposed version from disc 1, but with 35mm grain and scratches all over it, basically. Hey, it's an official way the movie was released, so I think it's a cool curiosity, but Vinegar Syndrome touts it as their preferred version. They say, this is also how the film was screened at the cast and crew premiere. To simulate this unique Cannibal viewing experience, we scanned the print in 4K resolution, did a light restoration pass to reduce dirt and damage, and presented it here in HD for the first time. This version is the preferred viewing option at VS, as the added 35mm film grain helps mask the unavoidable video noise and lends it a more filmic look. I think they must be on crack. I love film grain and texture too, but not layered unnecessarily on top of a tape transfer. And to clarify, they may have scanned that print in 4K, but the presentation here is 1080. There is no 4K version anywhere of Cannibal the Musical. I've seen the occasional social media post about how these are 4K releases, and it's untrue. There is a little drama around these Blu-ray releases. Both licensed the movie from Troma around the same time. Refuse Films ran it by the cinematographer for approval and decided against the 35mm transfer. They partnered directly with Jason McHugh for over a year and released Cannibal as part of their TromArchive collection, along with The Toxic Avenger and Sergeant Kabuki Man NYPD. However, star Diem Bahar has posted, and since deleted on Facebook, Vinegar Syndrome has the best and only legal choice of Cannibal the Musical on DVD and Blu-ray. Anything else is pirated shit that is low quality with mono audio.
All right, you little bitch.
When fans asked how or why, he specifically said that the Refused Films sound was mono. But Refused Films is quite clear that theirs was a new 2.0 stereo mix approved by Jason McHugh. Some guy on Reddit says he heard a hiss in his soundbar for both versions, but that the Vinegar Syndrome version was more under control. Let's listen to some comparisons.
Do you think I could just talk with Lucky Larry?
Sure. I'm going to meet a group of them now.
Swell. Do you think I could just talk with Lucky Larry?
Sure. I'm going to meet a group of them now.
Swell.
The group of assholes like yourselves came through here. I told them they should wait for the storm to end. The group of assholes like yourselves came through here. I told them they should wait for the storm to end.
I'm not necessarily hearing a very dynamic stereo mix for Vinegar Syndrome, but I have to say it's noticeably cleaner, especially on a pair of high-quality headphones. During musical sequences, the instruments and vocals on Refused Films sound flatter and more compressed. On Vinegar Syndrome, I can hear individual instruments and vocal elements distinctly from one another.
It's the end of him. It's the end of him. It's the end of him. Let's get on with the show. It's the end of him. It's the end of him. It's the end of him. Let's get on with the show.
So you might say, the ultimate version would be Refused Films visuals with Vinegar Syndrome sound. In fact, that's what you've been watching when I've been showing parts of the movie. Refused Films does also offer the original 1996 mix, as well as an isolated music and effects track from the 2000 DVD. So if you wanted to watch the whole movie with just sound effects and music, you could. With the exception of a 1-minute archival interview, Dean doesn't make any new appearances on the Refused Films version, but has a featured 30-minute interview on Vinegar Syndrome. I heard a rumor that DM was going to do a commentary for Refused Films, but they either couldn't or didn't want to pay his rate, so they parted ways, but then he started talking shit on social media and deleting the posts hours later. I suspect he was paid for his appearance with Vinegar Syndrome and became a cheerleader for that version, but that's all pure speculation.
Any advice for students, Dion?
Paid. Get paid. That everybody was willing to play different roles on the crew, as well as whatever they were assigned to. The work ethic that everybody had was really fantastic. All the egos were checked at the door.
Dean wasn't in the film program, so I think he was all about the acting part of it, whereas everyone else was more about the production. You know, everyone was, the cliche would be team player, right? Something needs to be done, anyone was willing to do it. And then there were like people that were the actors, and they were like, oh no, I'm not here to carry equipment, I'm here to act.
I'm not seeing any favoritism across the cast and crew otherwise. They're all pretty well represented across both releases. Dean's interview is quite interesting, as he goes over his whole acting career and talks about how hard he had to work to earn his role in Basketball, which I hadn't known.
Thankfully got Basketball, which I also had to audition for. A lot of people think that I was just given that role, and it's not true. It was actually a very extensive auditioning process, and after my 6th read-through, they were like, okay, you got the part. And I was only supposed to be in the first 10 minutes of the movie. And by the end of the movie, I was 3rd lead, which was amazing. I was like, wow, this is incredible. It was a big victory for me.
Both have lovely physical packaging, though as established, I strongly prefer the original poster, used on Refused Films, and I'm not as much a fan of these weird drawings on the Vinegar Syndrome release. They are a bit better than that 2008 DVD poster, though. Refused Films does have some kind of weird off-brand artwork on the case insert I'm not thrilled about either. They go heavy on the alien visitors in their presentation. Vinegar Syndrome more than makes up for it with a beautiful scrapbook of production photos. Jason McHugh says in the foreword that they actually had a dedicated set photographer whose car was broken into, so there's lots of lost photos as well. This scrapbook contains many of their festival and screening promotions, including a very South Parky looking one by Trey. The graphic design on the menus are really nice on both. Refused Films goes for a scrapbook aesthetic, and Vinegar Syndrome a more clean look. Special features on each are great, but distinct. Refused Films, focusing on archiving Troma titles, resembles the old DVDs much more, with lots of Troma content, including Trey's cameo in Tales from the Crapper.
So yeah, I'm Steve Keen. You might have heard of me. I work with Barney Gonkel, the manager Barney Gonkel, who represents a lot of bands in town.
When you think about it, how cool is it that an Oscar-nominated guy is willing to put up with a bunch of drunken retards?
Whereas Vinegar Syndrome feels very separate from Troma. Vinegar Syndrome has an original, very well-produced documentary retrospective with the cast and crew and even faculty from UC Boulder. This may be my favorite special feature of both releases. Seeing these folks all these years later really makes me reflect on the fact that this is a 30-year-old movie. Here we learn about Trey's hairline fracture after falling off the first liane.
There's not a more helpless feeling that you can have than seeing your director and star on a horse that's just riding at a dead bull, holding on for dear life. Then poof, he falls off, and there's like a little poof of smoke. It was like a little animated scene.
Ian and Alex getting trapped in an avalanche for hours after shooting Let's Build a Snowman.
And it had a big monument to all the snowplow drivers who had died on that highway. We weren't under it, but it was like...
We were close.
It was up to our doors. We couldn't open our doors.
And the reason all those snowplow drivers died, it's Uray Pass, is because there's no guardrail.
So it took us hours and hours. They shoveled us out. People came and got us. And we walked into the hotel room, and Jason said to us, "Hey guys, there was just an avalanche right where we were." And I was like, "You wonder where we've been for 5 hours?"
Shooting in Trey Parker's parents' backyard.
And I think our first weekend of shooting was at Trey's parents' house. So it was relatively local, like we didn't have to accommodate anyone.
Getting their Hang the Bastard shoot covered by MTV by cold calling them, which led to a major connection that would lead to South Park.
Local press was following us, and we were lucky enough to get MTV to come out and cover us doing Hang the Bastard.
And so I was watching MTV, and they had a show called The Big Picture. They were swinging the freak flag, and I got the message. And I called them up and I said, "I'm a major Hollywood executive, and I'm calling from Hollywood, USA, and I think you're gonna wanna come out and have a meeting with me." And Jason was like, "I'm a filmmaker." So we were both posturing, and we drink, and finally I'm like, "Guys, I've only had this job for 2 months. I don't know what I'm doing." And they're like, "We're in college, what do you think we know?" And so from that point on, a beautiful friendship was born.
"Richard, you have to move on. I want you to be happy."
But I can't.
And how they never actually got a rejection letter from Sundance. So they just showed up to Park City and held their own screenings.
Despite all the rejections we got, we were just sure that we were headed for Sundance and, next stop Hollywood. We just never got a rejection letter. Well, they didn't reject us. So maybe we'll just show up. They didn't say don't come, so maybe we're gonna show up. And in one phone call, I was able to book us a screening room and an audiovisual company to project, and I called Trey back and I'm like, "We're going to Sundance."
Vinegar Syndrome also had a great deep dive documentary on the history of the stage productions and what was involved in preparing a show like this for small theater houses around the world. How Leanne is often played by a dancer, or how they adapted the Grand Canyon and the Green River, and how Shatterproof now lives on as a dance battle number.
They found it was too out of character, which I completely agree with. But the show really does need a musical number there in terms of pacing it. Like really, I can see why they wanted to put one there. So what we did was during the bar fight, we changed it into a dance number. And we made it into like a Mortal Kombat-esque dance fight. So the fight scene became a dance fight scene.
The adapters talk about how it works not just as an irreverent comedy, but as an earnest musical. The same of which can be said for the Book of Mormon.
Despite all of the murder and the cannibalism and the serial killing, it's weirdly very sweet. It's got this very genuine and sincere kindness and optimism and sweetness to it. And I think that's something that never feels dated.
Conversely, Refused Films shot original interviews with Jason, Toddy, Hagel, Andy Kemmler, who played the Mohawk Trapper, and Mesao Maki, who played the Chief.
We all went to the movie theater in Boulder to watch the premiere. I was so moved to see that. Yeah, and I was grateful to be a part of it.
Toddy, as mentioned, dated Trey for a time and talks about how that relationship developed.
He was pretty hands-off when we were filming. He gave me a little bit of direction here and there, but it really was not very specific. I mean, he'd never talked to me on set, never looked at me, never nothing. Like, he never came over and said, well, hello, nice to meet you. I'm so happy that you're playing this role, and I think you're gonna, like, none of that. I was invited to go to what was the Student Academy Awards in Los Angeles. Trey was up for an award. Jason came over to ask me to come with Trey to this weekend. I was like, well, why isn't he asking me? It was the first time I'd ever even had a conversation with Trey. Literally did not know each other and ended up dating after that weekend. Back then I was still in my 20s and I was so in love, and he was such a big part of my life. He was experiencing success like he'd never known. Maybe it's not the best time to be in a relationship, and it was too much for him to be able to handle with everything that was in front of him, but it was damaging to me and it was painful. Ultimately, there was a falling out that I wish could have been different. It's literally been 20 years since we've spoken, and that's still a little raw sometimes when I think about it.
I don't know why, but this is really stuck in my head. They both went commentary crazy. Both, of course, have the drunken commentary and the 2008 Colorado commentary, but Vinegar Syndrome has a new Colorado commentary with the same people, and Refused Films has a new commentary with just Ian and Alex, and a dedicated Jason McHugh commentary moderated by my friend and filmmaker Zach Bynes. Jason talks about the legacy of the drunken commentary and how that's gained a cult following of its own.
Of all the outrageous things I've been a part of in my life, that's the one thing I hope my mom never gets back to her. She skips that audio commentary. You don't think I've ever been that hungover ever since the day after that audio commentary.
He also talks about how surreal it was to hear When I Was on Top of You played at Red Rocks for the South Park concert in 2022.
Red Rocks, you don't even have to be from Colorado to know that Red Rocks is like one of the most special stages for a live show that there is.
We were like 20 years old, and with a bunch of friends in college, we made a musical called Alfred Packer the Musical. I know Jason's here, I know Dean's here. I don't know if Ian and Alex are here. I don't know if John Hagel's here.
For When I Was on Top of You, to make the list of hits on the medley was also beautiful. It was a very full circle moment.
I was on top of you.
Speaking of that concert, Les Claypool, lead singer of Primus, who famously does the South Park theme song, was one of the earliest people to buy Cannibal in the UK when it was first released on VHS, which helped grease the wheels for the South Park song request. Refused Films has some really incredible archives. For one, it has a lot of the features we saw in past DVDs, like the behind-the-scenes footage and those 2006 interviews with Trey and Matt, except they're sourced from original uncompressed tapes, Betacam SP tapes in many cases, and they're unedited. For instance, the Trey interview was 20 minutes on the 2008 DVD, and it's over an hour here, offering additional insights. Like, you learn that Lloyd may have wanted to change the town in Spirit of Christmas from South Park to Tromaville.
Legend has it that I wanted to switch the town to be Tromaville.
Right.
Is there any truth to that? Do you remember that? Because I don't remember that.
I don't remember that. I just remember you watching it and say, this will never work.
Or there's an interesting moment where Lloyd asks Trey if he knows James Gunn.
James Gunn, do you ever see him? Mm-hmm. He and I wrote Romeo and Juliet. Right.
The only thing I don't hate is Cannibal, the musical. Cannibal has a fun-loving, good-time feel.
Vinegar Syndrome has some of this content, but it's the compressed and cut-down versions from past releases. What had been 15 minutes of behind-the-scenes footage in past releases is now over an hour and 40 minutes on Refused Films. Both have an old Troma commercial for Cannibal that makes the South Park connection.
Want to cash in on the monstrous success of the hit TV show South Park?
What?
Get Cannibal, the musical.
Refuse also has that 1998 UK version with the extra bits, like Don't Be Stupid. There's a fascinating interview Lloyd scored with Trey and Matt on the set of Team America, when they were at their wits' ends, that Refused Films preserved.
The whole last month and a half has been about giving up hope. Try to remember back to those days where you were making a movie just because it was fun. I can't imagine why we would have done that. We hate making movies.
Make your own damn movie.
We hate it.
The 2008 DVD and Vinegar Syndrome have the same deleted scenes at the Indian camp, but Refused Films has an extended compilation of deleted bits that are really hilarious and on no other release. Packer's testimony is especially hilarious, telling the story of the movie like he's a 4-year-old.
And then finally, I did an impersonation of Abraham Lincoln, and Bill got really mad and killed everybody, and then I killed Bill in self-defense.
There seemed to have originally been a recurring joke where everyone admits they were lying about past things they said, especially Humphrey.
You guys know that friend of mine? He didn't really make $1 gazillion. You guys, I can't cook. I can't speak Indian.
I have a confession to make. I'm not really a butcher.
I love these California jokes.
Me and my boys here, we're from Southern California.
Oh. Where those guys come from anyway?
Southern California.
Oh.
Thought we should have gone to California or something.
Fuck that. Fuck that.
There's also a lecture at CU Boulder given by Matt, Jason, and Ian about the experience of making the film, and I just love this sort of stuff. Seeing a young guy like Matt Stone, just a few years shy of one of the greatest comedy careers of all time. There's an amazing clip online of Jason McHugh and Matt Stone talking about their LA experiences and the opportunities Trey was getting, but the quality is weak. It's not here, and that would have been a great addition.
I have no doubt in my mind that if he went to any of those three, offered himself as a creative development person or to write scripts, he would have a job today if he wanted to. And what he should do is get an agent, because Trey Parker would be walking into those offices like throwing meat to dogs.
Also online, there's an old profile of the CU Boulder film program, and a very young Trey, gearing up for Cannibal, is featured as working at the equipment center. That and a number of other student projects I've seen over the years would have been fun additions to this Blu-ray. And I'm sure they could never get the rights, but it would have been really great to have MTV's episode of The Big Picture Show featuring Cannibal the Musical, although you can see clips from it in certain interviews on this Blu-ray. It would have been nice to get some new insights from Matt or Trey themselves, but Refuse Films kind of makes up for it with the high-quality extended footage. If you're a super fan, I think you need both for the reasons I've described. But if I had to make a ruling, Refuse Films is the more Shpadoinkle, with its superior image and, more than that, the extra mile they went with the archive quality special features. But I love that sound mix and those documentaries on Vinegar Syndrome. Sorry, you need both. How sad is it that that original film negative is lost, huh? According to Alex and Ian, the last known location was in cardboard boxes in the crawl space of Matt Stone's parents' house, but they still haven't been found.
Jason McHugh told us up front that the negatives were lost. The last we heard was that they were stored in Matt's parents' basement at some point.
I feel like we went to Matt's parents' basement, that crawl space, and then we did take them somewhere.
Ah, but wait. Is there, in fact, a more Shpadoinkle release than Vinegar Syndrome's ultra-limited 2024 VHS? I was able to snatch one of these up at the time of sale for $45. The packaging really makes this one. How many movies do you own that have LED lights that shine through a translucent shell when you open the case? But look, if I'm honest, I'm still really not feeling the hand-illustrated horror depiction of Alfred Packer as the primary poster for the movie. To me, the joke was always that it's a movie about cannibalism, but it's a toe-tapping Rodgers and Hammerstein musical. It's much funnier to go with a wholesome pioneer vibe than straight-up horror, but maybe that's just me. This transfer is clearly that non-colorized Betacam SP transfer that Vinegar Syndrome put out, and you know, it looks pretty damn good on VHS. If we're comparing it to the Orange Blood VHS, I think this has got to win. But this is all just nerdy fun. There's no wrong way to watch this movie. I saw this movie on an old CRT in an attic decades ago, and it hardly occurred to me that I was watching a bad or wrong version of the movie.
Greetings from Tromaville. My name is Frankie Frayne, a student from Westport High School. My interest in this company began when I was in 8th grade, after I viewed a film entitled Cannibal the Musical, a film written, directed by, and starring South Park's co-creator Trey Parker. The film opened up many things to me, many new things I had never seen in films before. From the start of the film, I honestly didn't know what would happen next.
I'm just grateful we still have a cast, crew, and archivists who care enough to put out banger releases like these. They, like me and so many of you, just seem to think it's important to keep the memory of this comedy alive. That's all we're asking for.
Again, it's just amazing that we're still talking about Cannibal the Musical.
And I feel like the core of what they've been doing since was there back then.
One of my treasure, experience.
I am amazed that it's been kept alive in different iterations.
Just an ever-giving piece of art.
Trey's he really is a true artist, capital A. When he gets his mind on doing something artistic, you're not going to get in his way. He'll work harder than anybody. He's more dedicated than anybody, and I'll go anywhere with them. Yeah. You know what I mean?
You've got creative energy, get it out. I mean, you're gonna die, so then it'll be gone. So you might as well get everything out now you can, whether it's music or movies or it's writing. That's my theory.
Have a Shpadoinkle day.